According to the survey, inequality, race relations and political parties are some of the most divisive issues in the country. 50% of the population feel that corruption has worsened since 1994. What also concerned researchers was the steady rise of populism and heightened efforts to undermine the constitution and the rule of law. Social media has been harnessed to propagate populist ideologies. But the survey found that the public broadcaster is the most trusted public institution in the country.
All the conditions for the growth of populism in South Africa are there already. So declining levels of confidence in public institutions, a sense that there's a lack of accountability and proper governance in the country, a sense of alienation among ordinary people from political elites, a belief that political elites are actually looking out for their own interests, best interests, rather than the interests of ordinary people.
Most people get their political information from radio and television, but also because the SABC is a public service, and therefore even people that don't necessarily have access to other media sources can have access to radio and television. And then also because I think the SABC presents findings in people's mother tongue. For example, community radio stations, and this allows for people to connect with information and findings in a different way.
The survey also found some positive trajectories. For instance, almost 80% of the population remain proudly South African, and the same amount believe reconciliation and unity are both desirable and possible. Researchers concluded that how the country deals with the state capture will define how populism is addressed and its impact on social cohesion and reconciliation. Manilisi Dubase, SABC News, Cape Town.
Well, to tell us a little bit more about this report, we're now joined on the line by Gugu Nonjinge, who's from the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation. She's a spokesperson there. Thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure to talk to you. This is an interesting report, but sadly, the findings don't paint a great picture for our institutions and government.
Thank you for having me, Peter. I think more than anything, for me, this report does paint mixed emotions of what South Africans want when it comes to reconciliation and social cohesion. I mean, a vast majority, as you've heard the report now, of the respondents that we spoke to agree that South Africa still needs reconciliation. Although only about half of them, actually 51%, report that they have experienced reconciliation or even believe that South Africa has made progress with reconciliation. That for me gives us an indication in terms of where we are as a nation when it comes to fostering social cohesion.
One interesting thing that comes up for me when we always talk about things like reconciliation is, does everybody have the same understanding of what reconciliation means?
The respondents, or rather the people that we speak to as the South African Reconciliation Barometer, they've associated the concept of reconciliation with unity, with peace and forgiveness. And in as much as it also includes moving on, also includes trust and truth and respect, also concepts related to justice and redistribution, racial reconciliation, they have all associated those with reconciliation. That gives us an indication of it actually, in as much as it means different things to different people, but the concept that we associate to reconciliation and social cohesion, the people kind of associate with those concepts.
Is there a difference in the way that different generations sort of take these issues in? I'm thinking older people who perhaps lived long enough to be at the tail end of apartheid, for example, and perhaps felt firsthand a lot of the viciousness of apartheid, compared to younger generations whose issues are similar in terms of discrimination, but perhaps not as intense as they were sort of during the apartheid era. Do they experience this reconciliation process differently when we talk about generations?
More than what we've picked up when it comes to the data as perceptions of the younger generations when it comes to accepting those or other acknowledging those of other nationals that are staying in South Africa. So when we're looking at those concepts, we see that the younger age groups are also, they show a greater extent of xenophobic beliefs in comparison with older age groups. So there is a difference in conceptions when it comes to different themes, such as reconciliation, such as how we address issues of corruption. And of course, there's never a similar view between the younger generation and the older generation. It is again represented in how they vote, and that's even picked up within the data as well.
So this disappointment that citizens have in government and our institutions, what is it largely about? Is it service delivery? Is it unemployment, corruption? What are the main markers?
So what we've picked up is what is reflected in the data is a decrease in confidence in key institutions. The survey was started in 2003, so we started tracking the confidence in institutions from 2009 till 2019. In as much as there has been a decline between 2006 and 2019, there has been some sort of increase in confidence between 2017 and 2019, and we can account those to the change in the president within the country. So that shift could have impacted citizens' perception and rather in this confidence in these institutions, and that for me also is reflected in how they still see that there is a need for things like reconciliation within the country. However, one thing that strikes out for me the most is the fact that when they say that actually, even though we desire reconciliation, but as long as there's things like corruption within the country, we should forget that we'll either be a cohesive or rather a reconciled country.
And we're very pleased here, of course, to see that the SABC has been highly rated. And we haven't always enjoyed that kind of confidence. Does that mean that the changes that have taken place have started to become visible and felt by the public?
I think more than anything, access is what speaks to the citizens, and the fact that the SABC is that one institution that they get credible data, or rather credible information pertaining current affairs. Be it whatever is happening in the background, they do not take that into consideration when they are answering to the surveys. So for us, and also the fact that, as the reporter mentioned, that actually this news that our citizens receive, it's in their languages that they're confident in. So understanding and unpacking the state of the nation, rather, is much more easier than if they were to receive news in a language that they do not understand.
All right, gender-based violence, did that feature at all in the reconciliation question?
So when we asked in regards to reconciliation and the possibility of attaining reconciliation within the country, gender-based violence is one of the issues that was cited by the respondents as some of the issues that would hinder achieving reconciliation. As a result, as long as gender-based violence continues within our country, we will never be able to achieve, or rather it's impossible for us to achieve reconciliation. And that was cited by 72% of those who responded to this question. However, the highest one that was noted is corruption, by 84% of South Africans, saying that it is one hindrance that actually would stop us from being as cohesive and a reconciled nation. I think that also boils down to the socio-economic problems within South Africa as well.
All right, so Gugu Nonjinge, that's where we'll leave it. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. She was joining us on the line. She's a spokesperson for the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation.